Good afternoon and welcome to the October 18th meeting of the Glendale Housing Authority, being called to order at 3:02 p.m. May we have roll call, please?
Yes, Housing Authority members Ajinian,
Here.
Asachian,
Here.
Divine,
Here.
Kasakian,
Here.
Najarian,
Here.
Farazian,
Here.
Chair Brotman.
Here. And may we have your report, please?
The agenda for October 18th, 2022 regular meeting of the Glendale Housing Authority was posted on Wednesday, October 12th, 2022 on the bulletin board outside City Hall.
Thank you. And the agenda is just minutes. Could you read it into the
Yes.
record, please?
Approval of minutes of the joint City Council and Housing Authority meeting of September 27, 2022.
Thank you. And any objections to the minutes? If not, would somebody make a motion to approve them? Okay, thank you.
Second.
Second. Any objections? No. Okay, hearing none. The minutes are approved. What's next, please?
Next is oral communications. We do not have any callers or cards.
Okay.
And the next item is authority members' staff comments.
Okay, do any of the authority members, council members have any comments? Nothing? Staff? Nothing, okay. Then I think at this point I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
We are adjourned at 3:04 p.m.
Thank you. Okay. Just wait over for the transition. Great. We are calling this joint public meeting of the Glendale City Council and the Housing Authority to order at 3:07 p.m. May we have roll call, please?
Yes, council members Asachian,
Here.
Brotman,
Here.
Divine,
Here.
Najarian,
Here.
Mayor Kasakian.
Here.
Housing Authority members Ajinian,
Here.
Asachian,
Here.
Divine,
Here.
Kasakian,
Here.
Najarian,
Here.
Farazian,
Here.
Chair Brotman.
Here.
Thank you. Please read us your report.
The agenda for the Tuesday, October 18th, 2022 joint public meeting of the City Council and Housing Authority was posted on Wednesday, October 12th, 2022 on the bulletin board outside City Hall.
Thank you, Clerk Abajan. What is before us today?
Our item is community development regarding program update and future considerations for monthly housing subsidy program. A council motion to receive and file this report and provide direction as deemed necessary.
Thank you. Mr. Gulanian.
Yes, good afternoon, Mayor Kasakian, members of City Council, Chair Brotman, members of the Housing Authority. This afternoon, you'll hear a presentation regarding our monthly housing subsidy program. That's 6 months after the start of the COVID pandemic. Council moved quickly and adopted this program to assist about 1,000 residents, rental residents of the city, especially the most vulnerable segment of our community, to mitigate the impacts, the financial impacts of the pandemic. That was set and established for 2 years. It's coming up to an end of the program in January of next year. So staff's going to present an update on the program as well as seek direction as to the next steps moving forward per council's desire. With that, I'll turn it over to Sipan Zadorian, our senior housing analyst, to present the item for your consideration.
Right. Thank you, City Manager. Good afternoon, Mayor Kasakian, Chair Brotman, City Council, and the Housing Authority. I'm going to give a quick update on the monthly housing subsidy program, and then we're going to ask you for some direction on the future of the program. So starting January 2023, the monthly housing subsidy program participants will start expiring their subsidy payments. So beginning January 2023, a portion of our participants will cease to have the subsidy. And moving forward, February, March, April, until June, a number of our applicants will decrease. We will probably lose around 350 applicants within 6 months as their subsidy expires. Today, we're here to ask Council what they would like to do with the program, whether that's allowed to expire as originally intended, add another year to it, extend the program, allow the current program to expire and come up with a new program, or any other option that council might come up with. So if you recall, back in 2019 is when the program was first established. It began as a pilot program, so it was supposed to be a 2-year program. It funded 1,000 applicants for $300 a month for 24 months. The applicants were required to be seniors, Glendale residents, renters, disabled, and extremely low income. We were funded about $8.4 million, which included direct assistance, staffing, and MNO. Back in 2021, staff went to council to ask what they would like to do with the program as the expiration date neared. The city council chose to expand the program, adding an additional year for the original 1,000 applicants, and then adding an additional 660 applicants from our waiting list to be approved. Staff went through all 666, and we were able to approve about 300 of them. So at the moment, we have 1,200 extremely low-income disabled seniors receiving this assistance. So as I said, we have 1,200 applicants receiving the assistance. That's $300 a month. Total budget that was approved by council originally in 2021 summed up to be about $14.9 million, including direct assistance, staffing, and MNO. We've only spent about $7 million of that budget. In total, if no other action is taken and the program is allowed to expire, we will spend roughly $13 million in total. So as I said, we're paying 1,200 applicants currently, but we did approve 1,341 of them. The reason there's a discrepancy there is because about 140 of the applicants that we approved ended up being disqualified. Either they passed away, moved out of Glendale, or for whatever reason, they became disqualified after being approved, after receiving assistance for a few months. So originally, we approved 1,341 applicants. We've disqualified 1,072 applicants for various reasons, whether we were unable to contact them, they passed away, they moved on to Section 8 or other affordable housing, or they just didn't qualify, whether their income was high, or they lived with someone under the age of 62. We currently have 3 pending. Those individuals were special circumstances where they, for whatever reason, whether they were hospitalized and they couldn't bring their paperwork in, or they needed a few extra months to provide us documentation. So we gave them a leeway. So we have 3 pending. They should be clear within the next couple of weeks. So we'll have a few more approved applicants. So as part of our renewal process, we surveyed the current participants. We wanted to gauge what they felt, how the program was going, how they felt about the program. One of the questions was how satisfied they were with the program, and they were given multiple options from very satisfied, satisfied, not satisfied to unsatisfied, things like that. 100% answered satisfied to very satisfied. Like 70% of them were very satisfied versus 30% were satisfied. Who wouldn't be? We also asked a few more detailed questions. We asked them how they felt financially after receiving the assistance. 99% of them felt more comfortable financially having additional assistance as opposed to just their SSI or whatever income they were on. 81% reported having felt improvement in their physical health, and 13% said that they were able to save some money after having received the assistance. We asked applicants, we wanted to see the impact of the programs. We asked applicants how many of them were receiving family assistance before receiving the monthly housing subsidy. 23% said that they were receiving assistance from a family member to pay rent, bills, things like that. After receiving the subsidy, only 12% were still receiving something from a family member. That's about a 47% change. So we did see an impact on not just our applicants, but their families that were assisting these applicants to pay rent, bills, and things like that. So as I said in the beginning, we were approved for $14.9 million in total budget. we actually have only spent 7 million so far. We estimated to spend 13 million. If council chooses to sunset the program, we will need an additional 2.1 million this next fiscal year just to end the program. It does not add to the approved budget, it's just, we need to allocate that money. You've approved 14.9, it'll only add to the 7 million that we've actually spent. So as I said in the beginning, we're here today to discuss the future of the program. We have 1,200 applicants receiving the subsidy, which will begin to end around in January 2023. We want to be able to give these applicants advance notice so they can adjust accordingly if the subsidy is going to be cut. And we felt about 2 months is appropriate time for them to adjust if the subsidy is going to be cut. So council has a couple of alternatives in front of them. The alternative one would be just to allow the program to expire as originally intended. Alternative 2 would be expanding the program, maybe adding another year or 2, or some other determined time. No other applicants would be added. We would just continue the 1,200 as they are now. Alternative 3 would be to allow the program to sunset and create a whole new program during budget study sessions, maybe a different criteria, maybe different population to serve. And alternative 4 would be anything council will come up with, anything else council has. If you have any questions.
Do my colleagues have questions? Yeah, I'll go with Councilmember Devine and then Councilmember Brotman.
Okay, so I want to make sure I have this clear. So we allotted 14 million. We have spent about half. Do you have new applicants approved and ready to go to make up for attrition for those that move on one way or another at this point?
We've exhausted our entire list, so everyone that's being served is going to be served. We have no one else that we can go to.
Okay, so if we were to extend this, you would have to reopen it to,
That would be your choice. We wouldn't necessarily have to reopen it. If you extend it, we can extend it just for the current participants. There's nothing that's requiring us to open it up to the
Right,
public again and
right.
have anyone else apply. That budget can go back to Measure S for the additional 300 that we weren't able to qualify the second round. So out of the 600, we were able to qualify about 300, and 300 of them were disqualified. We don't necessarily have to serve another additional 300.
okay,
Can
all right,
continue with the 1,200.
okay, thank you.
All right.
For now.
Councilmember Brotman.
Just a quick question. If a recipient lives in one of our affordable housing projects, they're not eligible?
No,
Or if
they're
an
not
applicant, I should say, they're not eligible?
No.
Right. Okay, that was it. I just wanted to check.
Any other questions?
I just have one question. Yeah, on slide 6, where you have the applicant satisfaction program, you have two correlations, satisfied and very satisfied. What makes somebody very satisfied?
We can follow up with them, but I guess the ones that were satisfied would have liked more of a higher subsidy. The ones that were very satisfied were okay with what they were receiving.
Very good.
Okay. Yes, Councilmember Al Saltrian.
So when were applications closed for this? Or were they?
Applications, I believe it was 2019, December 2019, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, and then at the end of it all, it looks like you're going to have 1.9 million remaining?
Right. Well, we haven't allocated that, so that's still in the Measure S fund, so we would have to ask for that to be put in the program. It's just in the general pot.
But it's part of that 14 point.
It's approved, but we haven't taken it from the fund.
Oh, yes,
I do have another,
Councilmember Brotman.
kind of a broader question. This is basically like a universal basic income program. And I'm wondering to what extent staff surveyed other cities that have done these kinds of programs. I know there was a famous case in Stockton And I think it got terminated, and there was a lot of controversy over it. But I'm just curious, like, both what we know about other cities doing this, and also to what extent have we looked at how they measure success? Do they use basically this similar type of survey approach, or do they do something else?
I haven't followed up on the Stockton situation, but LA County, LA City, and Santa Monica all have similar programs. LA County's Breathe program, I think they give $1,000. They don't have that many participants. 1,000 participants for LA County is not that many, but their programs are they're in their pilot stages, and they're doing extensive research on them. For example, the Big Leap for City of LA, not only are they serving 3,000 participants, but they also have 3,000 people that are just there to survey. So basically, they're studying 6,000 individuals, but only 3,000 of them are actually receiving the subsidy. The other one is a control group, and they're doing very detailed surveys. They're following up, I think, on a monthly basis. They know exactly where the money is going. In our case, we ask them where the money is going. We don't have an ability to track where they're using that $300. But in these other cases, I think they use cards or other systems where they know exactly what the money is being spent on. So their programs are more of, I would say, research. We don't have that much of a research aspect to ours. We surveyed our applicants, but we were never originally set up to do that type of an extensive research on them.
So you're saying, so you're saying LA City has these 3,000 participants and then a 3,000 control group, and how
Yeah.
much money are they giving?
$1,000,
1,000 a month?
yes, for 12 months.
Okay, and the county, you're saying, is also giving 1,000 a month for
Right.
a smaller group,
Right.
for 1,000?
And Santa Monica has 198 participants, but their program is much different. It's based on the individual's income and how much rent they're paying. So they take into account their rent and then the income after the rent. So it's a little more detailed on how they calculate their payments. And their budget is very small. It's only $2 million.
Okay, and then that's pretty much what we know of in LA County?
That's what I know so far, but I think there are other cities that are starting out with some type of program. I haven't researched them, but these are the main ones that I do know of.
Okay, but all sounds pretty experimental, pretty
Right.
much.
I think Santa
it's-
Monica is the only one that's kind of began to be a permanent program. They started as a pilot. Again, they did extensive research, just like the other two, but they're kind of, I think, gone into this permanent type of program.
But only 198 people,
Right.
very, very small,
Mhm.
okay. Okay, thank you.
Any other?
It's not, I don't have a question,
I have
unless the others.
Okay.
Oh.
Is there a question?
I have a question.
Yes, Councilmember Al Sadrian, then Councilmember Devine.
The programs in the other cities, do they have the same requirements as ours? Is it specific to elderly abilities and so forth, or is it open to a larger population?
Santa Monica's is for elderly, 65 plus, but I couldn't find anything for LA County or LA cities that specified age. I think it was mostly for low income. So there was nothing that required them to be elderly, but Santa Monica did. Santa Monica was 65 plus.
And then, can you walk me through what public engagement you guys did when you launched this program?
Originally, when we marketed the program?
Yeah.
Right. I think it
Or
was,
how you've been doing it up to this point? How do people find out?
no, we did an initial month of marketing. We sent out emails. We did a massive mail blast, multiple emails to our waiting interest list. We keep an interest list for anyone that comes to our counter and asks for affordable housing, and if we have nothing to provide them, we take their information, we put it on a list, and when we do have something available, we send out an email to them. We use that, I believe we were on a few local networks, and I know one Spanish network came out during our application period and advertised it during that time, but mainly mass mailings and emails. But we did do it for about 2 weeks to a month, I believe, while we were accepting applications. But once our application period closed, we haven't opened it up to new applicants. Once it closed, we've just utilized the waiting list that we've had to approve all these participants.
All right, I just wanted to mention that when I brought this to council, it was because of Santa Monica and the program that they had. And we did this to try to get our seniors through the COVID situation. I asked about the numbers in Santa Monica, if they were still doing the program, carrying on with the program, if they've extended it, and how many were involved. And I was shocked when I heard that there were like 150 people involved. How many did you say we had originally applied?
We originally approved 1,000 applicants.
Say again?
1,000 applicants right
1,000
off the bat, yeah.
1,000 applicants. Okay, and I want to get this straight. I thought you told Councilmember Asatrian that we had 1.9 million left in the budget, but I thought we had 6 million.
No, she was asking.
1.9 just for the rest of the year?
No, I think she asked what we would have left over once the program runs its course, and that would be around 1.9 million. So
Okay.
we were approved for 14.9. We'll end up spending somewhere around 13 million if we continue to pay the 1,200 applicants to the course of the program. No additional applicants, just the 1,200 applicants. We will end up spending 13 million. We were approved for 14.9. So that's the 1.9 that she was referring to.
So if we extend it to the end of December, which is when it expires.
Right, if you do nothing.
We will have how much left?
If you do nothing, you'll have 1.9 million left.
1.9 million. Okay, thank you.
Yes, Councilmember Najarian.
Yeah, so this came up, if I'm not mistaken, it was during our budget discussions back in 2019. Councilmember Devine and I were the only ones on the council that are still on the council. It was a little unusual. Glendale had never done a direct payment to individuals before. We do all sorts of social outreach programs, provide services, but never before had we given cash to individuals, and that in itself was rather unusual. I didn't feel that comfortable agreeing to that sort of thing. What we did is we did discuss, and we made sure of two things, that it go to the most needy at that time, and we talked about the seniors and the disabled, but we specifically stated this is going to have an end date. This is not going to be an ongoing entitlement. That's why I voted for this. We were talking about putting a sunset at that time, and we said, no, let's not do it. If you want to know where I am, I think the COVID issues that gave rise to this have resolved in a large part. In fact, the governor is going to be removing the state of emergency in a month or two. Those family members who we were concerned about who were not able to take care of their senior family members or disabled family members, I think have returned to a state of normalcy. This wasn't to make up for inflation. This wasn't to make up for gas prices. This wasn't to make up for grocery prices or rent prices. This was a out of the blue, super unusual moment in generosity that this council made to extend. I hope we don't continue this to be an entitlement program, because it will do nothing more than grow and grow. And these funds are coming out of the Measure S budget that we have many, many demands on. Tonight, for instance, one of the issues has involved our money. It's too expensive to put in a quick build project, $750,000. There are a lot of demands on that Measure S funding, and I hope we don't continue this, because there will be no end in sight. It will only grow and grow.
Yeah, go ahead.
Just one quick thing, because I hear COVID mentioned, but this program predates COVID. This program happened before I was on council, and COVID was March 2020. So this had nothing to do with COVID.
That's when we took action. COVID had started before that.
COVID started March 2020. This program rolled out well before that, like a year before that.
I think COVID had
I
started.
can answer that.
Okay, good.
Allow staff to answer, please. Go
It
ahead.
was right around the same time. The program was approved around December 2019, October 2019. That's when everything was happening with COVID. The shutdowns happened in March 2020. And I remember because we were trying to scramble to adjust to how we were going to interview these applicants. So the program and COVID were kind of neck and neck. At the same time COVID was happening, council was discussing the program. It was late 2019. So it wasn't after COVID, but it wasn't before either. It was right there, right when we were hearing about COVID more and more, right before the shutdowns, council was discussing.
So, I'd like to ask a few questions. So I know that we had a discussion about the age and how to change the age, what we would change it to in order to have certain individuals qualify. And I can't recall the specific details of it, but it looks like from the report that we landed on 62 and above. So do we know what the average age of the participants are in the program?
Next second, I didn't get the average age of the participants, but we do know that over 1,200 of our participants were over 75.
Okay.
Because we did have a priority for anyone that was 75 or older.
Okay.
It's 1,200 of the 1,750, not the 1,200 are currently receiving it, but I can find out.
Sure. No, thank you. No, that satisfies, that's enough information for me to give me a snapshot of the group being served by this. And it mentioned in the report that there was increase in savings of some of the participants due to this program. Do we know how it impacted the savings of all? And how did we find that information out? Was it anecdotally, or was it a specific question that was asked and information had to be provided?
Mayor Kasakian, it was a specific question. We asked them if receiving this assistance allowed them to save anything.
Okay.
And I think it was 13% said that, yes, they were able to save some money. The rest, unfortunately, weren't able to, whether it went to bills, rent, healthcare. Only 13% were able to save.
Okay. And then in terms of winding down the program, assuming that we decide to not continue this program, and I have to say that I tend to agree. I mean, this was very forward thinking at the time in terms of a somewhat universal basic income type action by the council, but as much as our goals are to help our community and we're well-intentioned, it doesn't seem like it can be sustainable for some of the reasons that were outlined. And just generally, I mean, how do you pick and choose? You know, it's the over 1,000 or so lucky, fortunate ones that receive the support, whereas so many more don't. In terms of how we wind people down from this, have we considered what the process is? One of the things that I would feel terrible about is that we have people relying on these funds. We've gotten them accustomed to it, and now, you know, overnight, they will not be receiving that. And what that does is put people in a very difficult situation. So what is the plan for winding them down slowly or immediately?
Mayor Kasakian, the plan would be to try to give them as much advance notice as possible. So if we know their subsidy is going to end, and we know which date it's going to end, we try to send out letters. And hopefully in those letters, we can provide resources that they can reach out to. If there's affordable housing available, maybe, for example, right now, HACLA is accepting Section 8 applicants to their waiting list. If there's resources like that available, we would try to provide those types of resources, anything else that we think that they might be able to take advantage of. But other than that, I'm not sure how else we would be able to accommodate for them not receiving the subsidy.
So one of the suggestions or ideas is to have people have more in-depth conversations with individuals. I know this is putting a lot of responsibility on staff, but perhaps we can partner with someone, maybe folks at the Verdugo Job Center, you know, to teach folks how to or help them better manage finances, right? Better look at where their income is coming from, where the gaps are. A lot has changed, certainly. There's been inflation, there's been a number of impacts from COVID that have lasted into the present. But I think that we need to we can't just say, okay, here's money, and now you don't have it anymore. We have to either look at a way of slowly weaning someone off of it, perhaps gradually decreasing it to the point where we say, okay, now you're not receiving any more funding, and having them make certain choices in their own lifestyle that will help them be able to afford the type of lifestyle and stay in the community that they've chosen to live in. The other is for us to, figure out ways to, I just don't feel comfortable immediately ending it, and we need a better plan as an exit strategy for these individuals. And I think saying that we don't really have that plan, to me, is not ideal or satisfactory. And I know, again, it's because of the limitation of staff resources. You have over 1,000 individuals you have to deal with, but we have to figure out, okay, what are the things that are impacting them? We've given them this money, but what else is going on in their lives that's causing, is there any group or any part of this community receiving these funds that through other means can maybe find ways to sustain it? Otherwise, it's in perpetuity until there is through attrition. They either move or they pass on or whatever else.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Mr. Galanian.
Mr. Mayor, Member City Council, as Mr. Zadorian mentioned, there's $1.9 million left in the fund that was previously approved by City Council. So if it's Council's desire, we can use up that remaining fund to phase out this program, give an opportunity for staff to meet and educate the recipients on other means available for them so that it's not an abrupt closure of the program.
Yes. And so the other aspect of this is that in terms of this program, which as I recall, it was just done mostly out of the concern for increasing prices in rents, the cost of rent, and this was seen as a way of assisting those that are most limited in their income to be able to make ends meet. It seems as though it's a large amount, but these are individuals that, it is a subsidy, right? It is a subsidy, but it's a subsidy that we can see has been mostly used to alleviate the burden of rent increases. Now that, of course, changed during COVID, and there's other factors that came into play in terms of how this assistance helped alleviate other stresses. But this was initially because of the impacts of rent increases, as I recall it. And I know that Councilmember Agajanian, there was a number of people that were advocating for this at the time. And even though I wasn't on the council when the inception of this idea came about, again, I think it was something well worth looking into given the type of population that it served. Mr. Galanian?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, that's absolutely correct. This was intended as a subsidy to help with the renters and not a basic universal pay program as there are some in other cities. So you're absolutely correct. It was a rental assistance.
Yeah. I mean, we say that, but it's tomato, tomato. UBI helping out with rent. Really, it comes down to people who are trying to make ends meet, trying to pay for housing, have to make difficult choices in their lives, and this is somewhat of a way of helping those, especially when we look at the age group that it's serving. It's individuals who have very limited opportunities to increase their income. So, I haven't necessarily come to a conclusion on this as to where I stand. I'm eager to hear what my colleagues have to say. But I struggle with the stresses and strains we have on our budget and a program that has no end in sight. And I don't know when we necessarily would end it, but I would also like to see us come up with a better plan as to how to take people off this gradually, whether it's through suggesting programs. I know Hakla is opening up their Section 8 lists again, or whatever it may be. But we should come up with that. So I'm happy to hear from my colleagues who would like to go first. Anyone? All right. Councilmember Alzate.
Sure. So one of my main concerns is this program opened up in 2019, and folks for the last 3 years technically, and then again in the last year, who may have wanted to, haven't been able to apply for it. And so if we are not going to extend this program, I would want us to maybe look at bringing back a different kind of program. I am also concerned about working families and would like to see an overarching kind of graph that highlights all of our housing programs and assistance programs, including for single parents. I do agree with Mayor Kasakian on how we properly phase this out. I don't want them to just get a notice that they're not going to be getting this assistance starting, a month or 2 months from now. I would be very open to utilizing the 1.9 million that was originally allocated to help with that phase-out process. But again, ideally, I'd like to see this open up to a new pool of people because I think a lot of circumstances have changed for people after COVID.
Okay, who would like to go next? Councilmember Brotman.
I'll give it a try. I'm really torn over this. My memory, I wasn't on council, obviously, but I remember following this discussion, and my memory of it is that it was really about rents and rent burdens and the fact that, it takes a long time to bring affordable housing online and all the rest of it. And that situation, if anything, has gotten worse. And these are kind of the most vulnerable, members of our population. They're disabled, and I remember that I guess the majority of them are like 75 and older, right? I don't really have a problem with it becoming an entitlement. The only problem is that every time we spend money on X, we're not spending money on Y. So I realize that, and I don't know. I think this is a worthy thing to be spending money on. So I would support extending the program. But if there's a consensus to kind of gradually wind it down, I would go with that as well, because as I said, I really I feel conflicted about it. I would like to really I'm very curious about LA's, experiment, I guess you would call it, to see, what impact that's having. Because one of the problems I think with this is we don't really have a good system for evaluating where the money is going and how it's really changing lives. If we find that it really is, changing lives, I think it's worth doing, but we don't really have good information on that. So I'm somewhere, I'm just very conflicted. I would go with extending it. I could see extending it for a shortish period of time so that we can then, and when we go through our next Measure S, budget discussion, we can look at the big picture of what our other priorities are, and we can then decide whether this is more important than that. Maybe there's a way to split the baby and have it run through that period of time when we're having those Measure S discussions. I don't know if there's a way to do that, but that's kind of where I am. I wish I were more definitive on this, but it's kind of hard.
Okay. Councilmember Devine.
Yeah, this is, we want to help people. We want to make their lives better. That's our job as council members. So this is a very tough decision. Do we continue this program to help these folks, or do we look at where we are in our city? It seems that council is on the path to reduce revenue, moratorium on hotels, closing the landfill, and other ways of decreasing funding. And yet we keep spending. We want more programs. We want, there's a wish list a mile long. So I think we have to be fiscally responsible. It doesn't mean we don't care about people. It doesn't mean that we don't want to help. It's just, do we have the ability to continue this program? We have come through the pandemic. People are back to work and hopefully able to help their families. Social Security, has been increased by over 8.8 percentage point, so that should be helpful, or hopefully is helpful to these families and these seniors. I am in favor of continuing the program through its completion and to allocate the rest of the funding, the 1.9 or the 2.1 or how many it is to get us there. But I think we have to really remember to be fiscally responsible with the funding that we have. We have residents who want services, who deserve services, and we have to be able to provide those to everyone, to all 200,000. So that would be my decision, to go with continuing through the completion of the program, use up all of the 1.9 million to get us through that, and to get all of these seniors that we've been helping, get them through that time period. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Councilmember Najarian, I know you shared some of your thoughts.
Well, yeah, I think you know where I am, but I mean, it was a wonderful program when we put it together. We really were concerned. I may be off a month or two on the COVID impact, but it was basically related to financial strain on individuals. We are not we are not the federal government taxing wages to provide Social Security or welfare. This comes from Measure S. I even would argue that the use of these funds in the way we are may even be violative of Measure S by targeting a particular age group and ability group, but I don't want to get down to that. We can't continue this program. It has to come to an end. The issue of the rents and the high rents, let's not forget that the city imposed a eviction moratorium, the county imposed an eviction moratorium, the state imposed an eviction moratorium. And ask any landlord out there over the past, let's call it 24 months, from April of 2020 until April of 2022, the vast majority of tenants did not pay rent. Not to say that the landlords didn't receive funding. There was a lot of state money put in. Not to say that the tenants didn't owe money, but they don't owe it as a condition of occupancy. So a lot of people weren't paying rent. We continued this funding when people weren't paying rent. It was great while it lasted, but all good things have to come to an end. We just can't continue it. Our budget is being impacted, and there's a lot of demands on our Measure S funding. We can go, we all know what that list is. I don't need to go through it, but it has to come to an end. We can't continue.
Okay. I would like to, well, before I ask members, Housing Authority members, Genia and Peraza, if they have any comments, I do want to say that from my experience and from my tertiary survey of landlords, I haven't found that the majority of tenants did not pay rent. In fact, I found the opposite, that the majority did try to pay rent. Many of them, maybe not the full rent, but many of them were making attempts to pay rent as best they could. I think even early on in the pandemic and at the height of it, the percentage I saw was about 24% at the high end and 10% at the lower end of people that were not paying rent to landlords. There may be statistics that would point to it otherwise, but I didn't think it was the vast majority, at least not in our city. Member Peraza.
I agree that every one of us like to help people, but I believe the council knows better than what the city needs the most. So I agree with you guys. So I believe we need to just stop this program and go ahead and do something else.
Thank you. Member Genia.
It seems that somewhere along the line, this Measure S is going to be redefined for the sake of Measure S and how we used it. So council probably has to redefine this Measure S so we won't get into this issue. Like, there's got to be some kind of a moratorium, something like that. I don't know. I'm not expert in this, but I'm getting that impression.
Well, as for me, I think that I'm inclined to thoughtfully winding down this program. And that's not to say that we may not revisit and introduce a different program in the future. But I would like us to see us put this program aside and then perhaps look at ways where we can, start a emergency loan program from the city for residents who fall on particularly hard times, who can go through the process of receiving some financial assistance that would be conditional on either repayment or whatever it may be. I mean, we also used to have a first-time homebuyer program that we had to do away with, and there's a lot of needs in the community, a lot of things that we can help individuals with. Certainly, every dollar that we put into this is less dollar that we can squirrel away and save for purchasing land for eventual affordable housing projects. We've seen how much we've been able to do, and I know that we'd like to do more, but we've had discussions, and we will have more discussions as to where we need to place some of our priorities. So, and Councilmember Devine is correct that we are reducing a lot of sources of revenue. They'll be taken off the table from us. So that is where I am right now. I don't know if this is just simply giving direction to staff, and there needs to be a motion to note and file this report. But I think you're hearing some consensus for the winding down of this program. I'm fine with the allocation of the remainder of the funds for the purposes of seeing the program through to its completion. I don't know if anyone has a strong objection to that, and it doesn't look like there is. Everyone's kind of, all right, there's no head shaking, so in the absence of that, we can agree to that. But we should, once it's completed, put it away and look at what we can do with the funds moving forward.
Do we need a motion?
I think we need a motion to note and file, but I'll turn to our legal counsel to see if the city attorney, see if this is sufficient information and you have direction.
Actually, I had a question for the staff, whether they need direction on starting the winding down process. Because I think there were some that some folks needing to get notice sooner rather than later? Or do you, because what I heard was council wants us to look at winding down the process, not to actually start the process.
As council was speaking, we were talking right now about what that could entail. We could allow everyone to receive their full subsidy for the promised period of time. So 2 years plus the one, so someone would receive their full 300 for the 3 years. And then we can look at how we can stretch the $1.9 million for each person who's completing their term by doing maybe a 200, a couple months of 200, then a couple months of 100, and then zero it out.
I think that would be, I would actually be for that. I think that would be a very fair way of phasing it out. Yes, Councilmember Alzate.
I had one comment. Would it be possible for us, or rather a question, would it be possible for us to do a thorough exit interview as we're like winding this down, for us to be able to obtain some thoughts for programs in the future as we're looking at it? So it's not just, kind of vague, very satisfied, not satisfied, and for us to be able to better gauge future programs.
Sure. As we're winding down, we can contact the participants and ask for a more detailed survey, maybe come up with something, pass it around to council, see if they approve of the questions, and then provide it to the participants as they exit the program.
And in addition to what Councilmember Alzate is suggesting, I would be interested in revisiting some of the or all of the participants or a sample of them within a year period to see what has changed in their lives in the absence of this subsidy Glendale UBI kind of program.
And I think both of those are great suggestions, so I would support both.
I know it's more work, but I think it'll be work time well invested in also allowing us to better manage our resources for programs moving forward. So is that enough direction, Mr. Attorney?
Mr. Mayor, so it's basically note and file and start the winding down process using the remaining 1.9 million to make it a soft landing for the folks that are about to run out of their subsidy.
There's no strong objections. I think everyone's in agreement. I'm seeing heads nodding. All right, including Councilmember Najarian. Thank you. All right, so with that, who would like to make a motion to note and file this?
I'll move
And a second?
item.
Is there a second? Second. Okay, there's been a motion to note and file. Can we have roll call, please?
Council members Asatryan,
Yes.
Brotman,
Yes.
Divine,
Yes.
Najarian,
Yes.
Mayor Kasakian.
Yes. And do we need one for Housing Authority or no? All right. And then with that, may we have a motion to adjourn?
I'll move.
And second?
I'll second.
All right, moved by Councilmember Brotman
For
and
authority.
Oh, yeah, motion to adjourn for the Housing Authority?
second for Authority. Moved by Authority Member Najarian, seconded by me.
Okay.
Thank you. All right, both meetings stand adjourned. We'll wait before we go to closed session. Okay. All right, may we have roll call, please?
Council members Asatryan,
Here.
Brotman,
Here.
Divine,
Here.
Najarian, Mayor Kasakian.
Here. May we have the items for closed session?
Yes. Item A, public employment attorneys. B, conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation, significant exposure litigation pursuant to paragraph subdivisions D2 and E2 of section 54956.9, one potential case. C, conference with real property negotiators, property location, real property generally located at the terminus of New York Avenue near Park Vista Drive, commonly referred to as Mountain Oaks. Negotiating parties, FENM Inc., employees defined contribution plan trust dated July 10, 1984. Agency negotiators attending the closed session are Rubik Golanian, John Takhtalian, Michael J. Garcia, Jillian Van Meiden, Bradley Calvert, Jason Bradford, and Onik Bulanikian. Instructions to the negotiators will concern the price and terms for the acquisition of the property. D, conference with legal counsel, pending litigation, FENM Inc., employees defined contribution plan trust dated July 10, 1984 versus City of Glendale et al., LASC case number BS 16989.
We do not anticipate reporting out, Mr. Mayor, and on item 1B, the facts and circumstances leading to the closed session regarding a dispute with the property owner at 3816 4th Avenue regarding certain permitting issues.
Okay. All right, with that, we'll recess to closed session. We'll recess to closed session. Thank you.